Nonviolence Inc calls for restoration of peace and stability in Middle East. Nonviolence Inc called for global determination for the internalization and restoration of peace to the Middle East in a statement. In this statement, this organization stated, at a time when most of the planet enjoys peace, security, as well as social and economic stability, the Middle East is burning with the flames of war, bloodshed, armed conflicts, extremism, and sectarianism. We, as a humanitarian organization and a human rights advocate, feel obligated to do whatever we can to decrease the sufferings of these nations and protect the international peace via international conventions and UN resolutions.
September 21st, the International Day of Peace. Nonviolence Inc called for the restoration of peace and security in the Middle East in a statement that comes as follows. At the time when most of the planet enjoys peace, security, as well as social and economic stability, the Middle East is burning with the flames of war, bloodshed, armed conflicts, extremism, and sectarianism. It is now for decades that the Middle East is suffering from thoughtless and short-sighted leadership who always opt for losing war over brotherhood and progress. It is so unfortunate to see that with no regards for the sanctity of human life, the regimes in the Middle East campaign for bloodshed and their reckless agendas. It is now for years that the Middle East has been the epicenter of armed conflicts and bloodshed, specifically in countries such as Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Syria, Egypt, and Libya. The shadows of war are also looming over other countries in the region as well, as there is an intense exchange of threats going on. The rest of the statement reads, the fragile and inconsistent peace among some Middle Eastern countries has turned into a big challenge for the nations in this region. Most of these countries are suffering from bad economic conditions, which are in some parts due to the ravages of war in their neighboring countries. The lack of social justice, political corruption, dictatorship, suppression, torture, arbitrary arrest, and the disappearance of dissidents have also piled up on the sufferings of these nations on a political landscape. The Nonviolence Inc further said, while the international community celebrates the International Day for Peace on September 21st, we should stand witness to the sufferings of these nations in the Middle East. We as a humanitarian organization and human rights advocate feel obligated to do whatever we can to decrease the sufferings of these nations and protect the international peace via international conventions and UN resolutions. The remembrance of this day as the International Day of Peace by the UN is an effort to bring peace and stability for all nations. Noting the many blessings of peace, all members of the United Nations are required to adopt agendas that actualize peace and socio-economic development. These agendas address a large variety of subjects, including poverty, hunger, sanitation, health, education, climate change, clean water, energy, environmental issues, social justice, and so on and so forth.